Good morning, everybody. Good morning, community. Welcome. Welcome to the final Wellness Wednesday for 2023 with amazing theme that we've had opportunity to study, being well and being whole. Good morning to everybody who's running into the room. You may want to tag another girlfriend. We're about to deep dive into some wellness work, a very practical tool. Get to see a couple more names on this morning, or at least pause enough to say, I see you, Tracy. Good morning, all the way in LaGrange, I believe, and Teresa's here. I see several Facebook users coming on into the room. Let's go ahead and get in and get ready to dive into what God has for us on today as we process. So from the onset, I asked the Holy Spirit to teach, and everybody who's already here to go ahead and lean on the love button. That's our way of covering our lessons, our atmosphere with love, and sending those shout outs of love to one another. So welcome to the community, y'all. The absolute last Wellness Wednesday of 2023. How many of you would undoubtedly say that coming here and doing the work, even on the Wellness Wednesdays, when we take the word of God and we attempt to apply it to our lives, that has helped your life, that you can literally see the growth in yourself. You're showing up for more than like to support me or to support the community. This work is actually supporting you, and you know that you are a better person, a better woman because of the work that you actually get to come in here and do. Anybody in agreement with that? I say that for my own life, that good for you, Teresa. You say you see the growth. Absolutely good for you. I say that for my own life. The teaching is great, but it's for me too. I see someone else saying it's helped me become the person that I want to be. Absolutely fantastic. And that's our prayer. That's our prayer. I see Deborah saying she's growing. Absolutely. So that's where we want to land on this morning, even on today, as we prepare to do the wellness work. We want everybody to be able to really dive in and begin to apply it to your life. And so I want to start with this interesting dynamic that shows up again and again as we've looked at the woman who we've just categorized as caught, because that's how they categorized her. Just caught, no name, just her sin. No defenders, just her being drugged out of the bed, caught. And the accusers and all of that, they are all around her. They are doing what they do, right? They're doing their best. I remember flashing this picture early on, just allowing ourselves to get into that space on today as we prepare to do wellness work. Caught. Man, I can't even lie. Could lie, but it would be pointless because it's in the proof, right? They already have her. And whether she was regretful of her behaviors, just ashamed, disappointed, whatever that is, she's caught. But we put her then in this space where I believe it's from the Lord, where she's just not caught through the eyes of men. She is guilty, but Jesus, through his grace, allows us to add the extra component that she's guilty, but she's growing. And so as we've done this lesson, this particular series of women that we've studied, this particular lesson has been for us, for you, for the woman who has beat themselves up over and over again. So if you again, comedian, I'm going to ask you to engage very intently today, because again, it is the last Wellness Wednesday of this year. and should during the weeks when we're offline and a woman is doing this journey or watching these replays, I want them to feel the love and the covering while we address very pointed things during this wellness work today. Okay. So for the woman who's beat themselves up repeatedly, or you've hidden, or you felt weighed down, or you've been plagued with your thoughts of your behaviors that you can never erase. You're the one that's wishing you could like undo certain things, wishing and shoulda and all that stuff, regretful, wondering if freedom can ever really be yours. Let the love that you're seeing as our ladies lean on the love button be a representation of the love of our good daddy God. And may it be a representation of our love for you. You are welcomed right here. You belong right here in this community of faith with these believers, because we too would testify and say, had it not been for the Lord who was on our side, had it not been for his grace and for his mercy. And so today, as we do wellness work, you're going to hear some very pointed discussions, but you're also able to sense and feel the love of God. For his word declares that whom God loves, he corrects. He doesn't allow us to just wallow in stuff and not ever like pull our coattails and bring us back in. So again, receive the love of Daddy God on today and receive the love of this community of believers who say, yes, we're all guilty, but we're growing. It is our endeavor to become more like him, to be kingdom citizens who arise, to be mature women who get up and who do different, to see our lives be in a different place than they were previous years. And even as we go into a new year, we want to see our lives go into deeper places and deeper levels and deeper glories and deeper favor and deeper opportunities. But there's so much of it that we've said comes with us maturing, comes with us moving differently and doing differently. So you're going to hear that as we do the work today. But you're welcome here into where this body of believers together has been focusing on being well and being whole. And I asked the question at the top of the broadcast, how many of you can really say that you're growing, that you find yourself reflecting, that you find yourself trying to navigate differently? I mentioned before, and perhaps she's here again, when I read the post from Ricky, who said, I would have gone off. I would have, but I'm trying to be a mature woman who arises. So I know that people are taking the lessons beyond gathering here in this space and literally trying to apply that to our lives. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So as we deep dive on today into this particular piece, I want to bring us back to the moment, caught, guilty, but growing. And I'll say that a dichotomy of us. The root word in there is just simply based off of dichotomy. Dichai is two, the two sides of us. Yesterday, I invited us to really embrace, I am not that simple. Someone may want to meet me right there in the comments again today and say, I am not that simple. I'm just not that simple. And that is the narrative that we are going after today. This bit of you that have told yourself a narrative that has boxed you in, that has caused you to operate a certain way. And you're going to see how this shows up. We really have to understand, I'm not that simple. I'm not either or. It's often not black or white. It's not this or that. There's a complexity about being guilty but growing. I'm not just guilty and I'm not just growing. I'm both of them. And so just in a lighthearted way to begin to build this foundation so that we can all track with the thought, it's like those who say, I do want to lose weight, but I love dessert. And when you see them eating a piece of cake, you get tickled because you said, well, I thought you said that you want to lose weight. I do, but I love dessert too, right? I know there are many women on the line who can probably attest, who's had made decisions like myself coming into the holidays. Oh, I'm going to do better with my eating, and I'm not going to go all the way off track with my eating. But then I get to the place, and if you got German chocolate cakes, I get down for that. If you got some chips with some salsa, I get popcorn is my thing. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody is looking at what you said and what you're doing and what you're doing and what you're saying, and they're trying to make you either or, there are many of us who can say it's not, it's both. I mean it when I say I want a healthier lifestyle. I mean it when I say I like German chocolate cake. I mean both, right? Are we tracking? Go ahead and give me some thumbs up action up and down, something like that, where we're saying I'm following you. And so if somebody's trying to simplify you and make you one thing or the other, then they're going to miss it. And if you have that narrative in your head about you, then you're going to miss it, right? It's and so I want us to see then that that's how society in general packs things, unfolds things, rolls things out. Even when we think about something as simple as Christmas time, y'all, what's the list titles? You're either naughty or you're nice. I need the list that says both, naughty and nice. Because there are some days, honey, when I landed at 100%. And there's some other days when my attitude and my disposition, it wasn't quite right. But if you're asking me to choose, am I always naughty or am I always nice? I need a list that merges both. Would anybody else say, can you point me towards that list? Because don't put my name under naughty like all I've been is bad. And don't put my name under nice like all I've been is good. I've been guilty and I've been growing. Are we tracking? Y'all see how we laid that little foundation from using the little Christmas narrative, right? The world often sets it up in such a way that our mind thinks either or. Our mind thinks either or. And y'all know we're going to take a turn and that's going to become real serious. But when we have that narrative, when we've really bought into that paradigm as the only way of thinking, it shows up again and again. But you see people beginning to push back because you'll see like a shirt that will say holy and hood. I do both. I watch and I pray. I pray and I fight, right? It's this idea that people are waking up to that says you just this whole system, these boxes, this robotic way of trying to assign me to either or is not working. I've highlighted that even about my own logo that's right there on the screen, where it has a boot and a stiletto. And when I was attempting to get it designed, people would say, well, which one of you do you want to be? Do you want to project your branding as the professional who's been trained and you want to emphasize your doctorate and your degrees, or do you want that boot look that just kind of says you're relatable and you're from the down home and I'm both. I'm both. When I head to Somerville over the weekend to spend Christmas and stuff with the family, trust and believe, Zoe do not call me no Dr. Gina, never will, don't expect her to, right? But it doesn't mean that that's not who I am. And so being even that was a pushback against you don't get to force me to choose one part of my identity. I'm both. And y'all, this is going to become critical for your growth, for the quiet moments when the enemy's going to try to come and bring the doubt and bring the judgment in your minds. Having this firm foundation about this conceptualization of ourselves, y'all, is critical. By the way, Sabrina, I see you in here on this morning. I know you're bouncing back from surgery. See you healing and you on here, right? You're both. And so those of you who see Sabrina's name, who's regularly here, have been out for just a bit because of some adjustments that she was working through with her health. If you'll welcome her and make sure we see her, let her know we see her, we love her, welcome back. But let me get on back to my thing. Y'all see I'm focused and I digress. I do both. I really do. Okay, and so understanding this is important, y'all, because we do have then a past self, we have a current self, we have a future self. We have the struggles. Sometimes I will for always remember, and I've mentioned her to you. One of my 13-year-old students, right? The one who told me, you didn't ask me what I know, you asked me what I feel. Man, that is a grown woman awareness that I could teach that over and over, year after year, and help somebody. The short of it is the student was going to court. She was going to have to testify against her father about the molestation and the sexual assaults that he'd done towards her. And when she came back to court, she came into my office, did all of the like chat through that we do. And I said to her, and no, she told me about her testimony and all that she did and all that she said, man. And I was championing her, feeling like you are a brave young soul to go and face him, to sit up there in that court, to tell what really happened. And so in that moment, I was like, so tell me how you feel. Like you've done that. You've said what you said. Tell me how you feel. And she said, man, I miss him. Y'all, I can hear her talking about it. She said, man, I miss him. I miss like him just being my daddy. And I miss, it's ironic, but it was like holiday time. I miss like seeing him in the holiday and Christmas. And I miss sitting up in his lap. She said that. And I'm thinking, when she said that phrase, like I miss sitting in his lap and laying my head on, or when she said she would lay her head up against his cheek and just stuff like that. And I remember her saying that part about sitting in his lap, right? And I said to her, how can you know all that you, how can you have testified about all that he's done to you and still feel like that, like you miss him and you wish. And she said, literally, a kid at 13 said to me, Dr. J, you didn't ask me, what did I know? You asked me, what did I feel? And to this day, that resonates with me 20 plus years later, that this kid was present enough to understand that in the midst of something that emotionally intense and with the consequences that it had, because he went to prison, this kid was present enough to testify, to be a witness based on what she knew, but to sit in my office and respond to me as a daughter based on what she felt. And she held space for herself to understand that there was a difference, and she was both of them. She was the witness who would not back down off of the fact that you had assaulted and molested her, and she was the daughter who would not back down off of the fact that she missed and loved her daddy. She was both of them. Grown women, arise. Mature women, arise. Let's do a quick tracking check. If you are tracking, if you get the gist of this foundation that we are laying, that within these narratives that society, even in that moment that I tried to present to her unaware, I'm basically asking you then to choose which one you're trying to be. And she said, no, no, no. You did not ask me what did I know. You asked me what did I feel. And I can know one thing and feel another. Those of you who are tracking, go ahead and let's get that tracking check in. Let's get that tracking. This idea that within me, I get to resist this paradigm, this infrastructure that the world tries to give us that says it must be either or. I see you. Thank you. Thank you for responding. Thank you for letting me know. Because the teacher part of me, before I layer again, because we're about to layer, I want to make sure that you understand. And before this is over, we will get to why this is wellness work and why you have to be clear about this. All right. So we're there. So we understand. Now, for those of you who need this real quick, I love to tell y'all, honey, y'all know Zoe raised me on a good Bible. So this is where if you're saying, okay, show me how this type of narrative, how this type of understanding, this thing that you're teaching us about really getting that I can be guilty and growing. I can be naughty and nice. I can be holy and hooded. I'm not endorsing those messages, just that comical space of being, I can be wanting to lose weight and want a piece of German chocolate cake. I can be both. How's that even biblical? We see that even when our good daddy God addressed Jacob. Y'all understand that? He was Jacob and he was Israel. He was the trickster and he was going to be the one who transitioned his family. He was both. He was both. Even the night that Jacob was wrestling all night with the angel, right? The Bible even says then he said, I'm calling you Israel. I'm shifting you to your next. Within Jacob was the capacity to be a trickster. Within Jacob was the capacity to trick his father and take his brother's birthright. Jacob had those tendencies. But Jacob was also the man who was willing to do right by Leah when he was tricked into marrying her and to work another 7 years to earn the one that he loved. He was both the trickster and he was the hardworking man. He was both. He was the one who tricked his brother out of the birthright, but then wrestled with an angel all night long en route to go and ask that same brother for forgiveness. He was both. Y'all hear me? Because this is a part of us being well. This is a part of us learning that. And Paul states it in the New Testament for the one who's saying, well, that's the Old Testament, honey. We no longer under the law. We're not under the law anymore, but these still are faith siblings, old and new. But even I got you in the New Testament. Paul said the things that I would do, I don't want to do. And the stuff I don't want to do, I find myself doing. He battled with both. He's the one who then introduced. So should we sin so that grace can abound? Not so, right? He was both. There's your biblical foundation. For those of you who want to examine biblical characters who had to struggle with both, Peter was the disciple and the one with the bad temper. Baby, he cut the man's ear off because this not fixing to go down. He would need the sweatshirt that said holy and hood. He was. He was a disciple who had the temper. He was going to get with it. Y'all got some real good Christian girlfriends, baby, but they not what you want. They will roll up on the situation, right? So it is the ability to understand, y'all, that we are not one or, we're both. Now, why is that critical? Why is that critical during the quiet weeks here in the community for you to have as your own foundation? Why is that critical for the dead of the night when those voices can be so loud in our heads? Why is that critical when you go amongst the holidays and you may feel triggered by a person from your past or that person who did something inappropriate? Why is it important to understand that certain situations can bring out one side of you or the other? Certain folk can strengthen the growing side of you or can pull on the guilty part of you. I was going to say this same 13-year-old child was the one who one day we were talking about something and she said to me again, Dr. J, I keep trying to let go of my past, but my past is not letting go of me. It's realizing that there is a tug of war. And so the decisions and the choices that you have to make in the stillness of those moments when it's just you with you, you're going to have to be present to the idea that you're not that simple, honey, and save you, if she's not careful, can be redoing what I'm gonna get saved one day you would do, right? When you really switch the narrative and really understand I'm not that simple, man, it helps you to grow. It helps you to be in ownership. It helps you to make choices of accountability. It helps you to quiet certain things. It helps you to stop disqualifying yourself when you make a poor choice because you thought, oh, I thought I was over that. I am. I am over it. Today was just a moment. Today I was triggered or allowed myself to have my button be pushed. Today I slipped into something, but I can get back up. It allows you to stop throwing away the baby with the bathwater. That's what that means. When you understand that something valuable is in there, even though the surroundings may be a little bit jacked up right now, it allows you not to throw out you because maybe you called him. Maybe you hooked up with him during cuddle season. And now you're like, man, I done went all the way back. I guess we go together now. No, we don't. No, we don't. Somebody say, no, you don't. Y'all don't go together now. You made a moment, a decision, a poor choice. That's all it was. You don't have to allow that to define the totality of how you exist. Now, I'm doing real talking. I told the ones who joined us for the day, hang in here with us because, yeah, we go here. We have to understand that because the quiet comes, the thoughts come during the night, the conversations come depending on which group we're associating with. And if we don't live present to the fact that we are both, we can find ourselves in some situations, in some decisions, in some issues that we never counted on. I want us to have very real talk, and y'all lean in. This is not about any particular person, but I think about the pastors who, for a minute there, it felt like every other week or so, one of them were committing suicide or something. Y'all remember, like for a moment, just a few years back, it felt like every other week or so, a pastor was committing suicide. A movie star like the Bordeaux was one of my favorite shows. He would travel around the world. Kate Spades. The people were committing suicide or they were caught in activities that were just like, man. And if you were to step back from that, humanity as humanity, do you really believe that any of those persons, after giving themselves to the world or to ministry, would have started from the front side of it, saying, so one day after 20 years of ministry, after 30 years of ministry, I'm going to be the pastor that's going to find myself in some type of illicit affair. I'm going to be the one that's going to commit suicide, or I'm going to be the one strung out on drugs. Come on now. Humanity to humanity, when we're not busy judging them, when you just step into it from humanity, you would understand, man, didn't nobody give them their lives to ministry to want to be the one to end up as the poster child of that? That's not what happened. what can happen is we can get so far removed from being present to how we're one step away from holiness and one step away from a bad situation, but for the consciousness of the Holy Spirit and the grace of God whose hand is on our life. That's why the scripture says, such were some of you, and but for his grace, ergo I. Come on, somebody, meet me right there. But for his grace, but for his grace. While your stuff was not on a public platform, in your own homes, in the privacy of your own situations, but for his grace, but for his grace. Paul said the stuff that I would do, I'm trying to tell you, with all the books that I done wrote, the Ephesians and the Colossians and all, and then walked over serpents and then been through shipwrecks, but for his grace, the things that I would do, honey, I don't do them, and the stuff I don't want to do, I find myself doing, but for his grace. But for his grace. I mean that, but for his grace. But for his grace that covers and sustains and lifts us up. We have the capacity to be both. We have the capacity to be both. Are we tracking? Y'all check in with me. So I'm going to come on through here so I can give us this tool. The tool is this. It is this real life then awareness, this very present sense of knowing that I am both. I am both. And so I have the propensity to clap real hard for myself and to think that I am doing well. And I have the propensity, like a kid playing hide and go seek. If you were to play hide and go seek with my 2-year-old niece right now, and you say, baby, go hide, honey, she covers up her eyes. And she somehow think that because she cannot see you, you can't see her. But y'all, we grown women, mature women arise, we understand that covering up our eyes and acting like I can't see my own character flaws, that I can't see that I can slip up and lie or take advantage or backbite. We should by now grow up and understand us covering our eyes from it and only looking at the piece of us that says, well, I don't borrow money from people and don't pay it back. Baby doll, you both. Hey, you may be the person who don't borrow folk money from people and not pay it back. And you can give yourself a 100 on that side. But over here, you may need to put a 0 by the I say thank you and I reciprocate. You're both. And if we don't grow up in those areas, if we don't mature in those areas, y'all, we will find ourselves stagnant in our relationship with God and stagnant in our relationship with other people, because even though we may pretend not to see it, they do. Even though we may pretend not to see it, God does. But for his grace. But for his grace. So why is this a part of wellness? Man, this is a part of wellness because it allows us to stand in integrity and to stand in truth. It allows us to stand in integrity and to stand in truth, to acknowledge the places where we're doing the thing, but to also acknowledge the places where we just got to grow and do better, because we're both. And when we do that, y'all, it's empowering. It's empowering because I get to say, in the stuff that I'm doing well, I can go from level to level. But in the stuff where I'm slacking and I'm repeating and I'm still doing the same old stuff that I was doing, 20 years ago, I get to hold myself accountable and to grow. This is only for the grown folk. Y'all know I love to say, I know my niche. I know who I'm called to teach. And right now I'm talking to the woman who is saying, even as we're on the cusp of ending 2023, that I intend to have a different 2024. Is that anybody on today? I intend to have a more productive, a more manifested, miraculously manifested 2024. I want different than what I see. I am not saying that everything about 2023 and my past has been horrible or bad or even not good, but I recognize that there is more for me. And I have lived long enough to understand that it does not come with the change of a new year. That it does not come because the three is going to become a four. The year will not change because the days rolled over into a new ending. The year will change because I change. The year will change because I'm doing different. The year will change because I'm being different. And I'm grown woman enough to know that with the rising of each day, if I don't change, nothing about my day changes. Somebody meet me there. Are you grown woman enough to know that the changing of a 3 to the 4 is not going to make your year different? Your year will be different when you are different, when I am different, when I grow up already, when I put away childish things, when I choose to acknowledge that I am both. There are some parts of me that are pretty fantastic, and there are some parts of me that needs to sit down somewhere and get myself together. I am both. Grown women meet me there. I'm both. It is the part of me that I said to you all, I had to get over the narrative that I am incapable of putting together stuff. I talked to y'all about them chairs and how my narrative for years have been, I can't do it. I just can't do that. And I wait for my brother. And honey, he came 2 weeks later and I said, Junior, had you been here, I never would have put this stuff together. I would have waited. I would have waited, but something in me said, you read and figure out everything else, grow up already, come out of that narrative that you can't do that. Sit down. Yes, it took me longer. Yes, I had to start over. Yes, I had to go buy a few pieces for my drill because I didn't even own that stuff, but I sat there, and there are women here on this community today who will tell you they came, they sat in them very chairs, honey, and them chairs ain't fell apart. Them chairs held them up, and I put every single one of them together. I'm not bragging on myself. I'm acknowledging my growth. That there was a day when I would have just said, I can't do it. Grow up, G. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So I see you all saying, I'm both. I'm both. And I get to grow. Let me wrap up with this. I get to grow. So when we have this wellness work, really, when we begin to do the work, y'all, it allows us to sit in the spaces and say, these are my strengths. I'm bringing this into real life translation now. How does this show up? How does this really show up? How does this really show up in real life? This wellness tool, this shifting in my narrative that I'm either or, and really being intentional about understanding that I'm both. How does this show up? The first thing that it does, y'all, is it holds you accountable for your own life. You really get to own that the world is not happening to me or at me, that I'm in it and I have a role. You get to step back, and in the spaces where you've chosen well, where you've made good decisions, where you've just done the thing, you get to really acknowledge that. If you are good at being a strategic planner, if you are good at decorating for events, if you're a great cook, if you're a loyal friend, if you're patient, if you are good at budgets, if you're good in your relationship, you're a good mom, you're a good spouse, man, you get to say that, and you get to grow in that area. But in the spaces where yeah, I'm a good event planner, man, I could do awesome at planning those events. I nail the thing when it comes to that. I really do. But I'm not particularly nice. I don't like people. I don't really like people like that. Then you get to understand, and you have to own, oh, okay. So if people then, because of their experience with you, they don't recommend you to other people, they don't tell other people about you, they don't endorse your business. My sister and I were talking about a situation with a company just the other day, and how hands down that business, man, they are light years ahead of what other people are doing in that industry. But the owner is about as rude as all rude. And we would rather spend our money with a nice person who does a less quality of work than to spend our money with someone who treats us with no regard as a client. And so for those of us who are processing different spaces that we've been in our lives, and perhaps why those spaces are not productive, why they don't take off, why they don't manifest into what they would manifest in. We get to acknowledge the part that we do well, but we also get to challenge ourselves to grow up, to do better in certain areas. Honey, you may be the best at something, but you're always late. Nobody's going to do that long term. You may be the best listener, but at every meal, when it's time to pay, you're very comfortable with the other person always picking up the check. Baby, folk gonna feel like if that's the cost of your friendship, they might as well spend that money on getting a therapist who can listen, because what they not gonna do is pack you for the rest of those days in those relationships where you do more taking than you do giving. People will find themselves not on invitation lists, not being included in stuff, because you're always that person. And honey, we all have to choose to grow. I've said that just the other day when you see me beginning to have boundaries and to take a stand about certain things. I know I had to grow in the area of people pleasing. I would leave stuff exhausted and over budget. And I would feel like, you know what, your strength was gathering a whole lot of folk and getting a lot of people in the room and giving them a great time. But now you leave and you're mentally exhausted and financially you're over budget. Sis, you're going to have to get that people pleasing stuff together. You got to grow, right? We get to acknowledge both and begin to do the work on ourselves so that when we're trying to create for our future, it shows up different. We get to incorporate that dynamic with people. We get to give ourselves grace for loving folk who've not been good to us. I know they're women because I know some of the things that we've worked through, who you've tried to justify why you love your bad mom. And so to love her, and I'm saying bad mom as in she has mothered you poorly, and you think you have to choose. You either have to love her and thus say that she was great, or you have to acknowledge that mothering you has been poor, and so now you need to be mad and hate her. And your dichotomy has been that what you know and what you feel don't measure up. Well, take the grace that my student taught me and I shared with you all and understand that you can be both. That you don't have to be manipulated in your mind and pretend that this person has done right towards you. You know what you know about their actions, but you don't have to then force your feelings to be that of hate. You can just understand, I can love some people who have not treated me the best, and I'm going to make different choices about my behavior, but I accept that I'm both. I'm both. I love the ex who was the father of my children. I do. But I'm informed enough and I know enough to know, but don't get back in that relationship. I'm both. Like this understanding, it translates into our lives. And we get to be well and we get to be whole because we're no longer forcing ourselves to do what we don't really feel and to feel what we don't really, to somehow try to cause our feelings to match up with what we know. When we're mature, we can handle being both. We can handle saying he was a good father. So let me quit bad mouthing him to the kids. He was a good father. He provided for them. He was just not an acceptable husband. And I can manage both. I can create something different for my kids and him for 2024. I don't have to be in a space where because he was a poor husband, now I got to hate him, badmouth him to the kids, make all of our future days together horrible and tenuous. I can choose to understand that I can assess both. You are a great father. We will always be parents together of these kids. You are not an acceptable spouse. And I can separate and understand that both truths are truth. And I can be grown up enough to govern myself accordingly. Y'all give me some kind of tracking indication that you're understanding why this is important. This understanding is important if you're going to have a different 2024. If you're saying my year is going to be different and I want to be different, honey, the year is not going to be different if you're not different. If you're not really beginning to accept it, that you were negligent. You're negligent as a father. You did betray as a sister. And yeah, but I love you. You're my blood. I get to be both. I get to be both. And in owning that, I get to set a different set of boundaries. I don't have to walk around not speaking to you and having all that tension in my heart, in my spirit. I don't. But you betrayed me. You did some stuff in my home. So guess what? but I still love you. But we're going to meet at the restaurant. It's not either or. You betrayed me, so I hate you. And I don't fool with you. You betrayed me. And that's truth. That's the truth. You betrayed me. But the truth also is I love you. You're my sis. You're my blood. But you know what? We're just going to go to a new space. You know what? I'm going to be grown and not tell you certain secrets no more. But I'm going to still give you some time because you're my sister, right? You get to really figure out how to navigate a world that wants you to choose either or, that wants you to land in either or and fake and be something and feel something that you're not. You get to really be in integrity and truth. Y'all, that's why I say painful truth. Y'all, that's another way that it shows up in our lives. And I see y'all saying, I'm tracking. It shows up in our lives. People think that if because it's truth, it ought to feel good. If it's truth, it ought to make everything better. Honey, sometimes truth is painful. And if you reject it just because it's painful, then you're going to miss some things that's truth. And being able to understand that it can be both. It can be factual, actual, and hurt your feelings at the same time. And it doesn't make it any less the truth. It's both. It doesn't make it any less the truth. Are y'all tracking? Yeah. Yeah. You got to be able to just move differently outside of the box of the narrative that things are either or. In Jesus's paradigm, in the story that we've been studying, baby, them folk came out there talking about she was an adulteress. And Jesus, again, did not try to argue that point because you know what? It was the painful truth. But Jesus didn't make that an either or, like, okay, and because she's an adulteress, now y'all need to stone her and kill her. He said she is an adulteress. Basically, she is. But I'm giving her grace to grow. She can get up and go and sin no more. It's not either or. It's not I'm a single mom of kids, so now I can't go to school. Both. It's not I'm a divorcee, and so now I can't have a love relationship and can get married again. Like there's these either or narratives that we live in. It's not I'm this age, so I can't, can. It's not I've been infertile, so there's no children. If you only have the one narrative of what being a mother looks like for you, then yeah. But if you expand it and you say, God, you can still grace my body, I'm still believing for that. But in the meantime, I'm willing to explore other options. I'm willing to not be just in this one way of what that has to look like for me. Can y'all better hear me? If I really want something different for 2024, I really have to come to this awareness. I got to do the wellness work. And so for each of us, as we're preparing to go, what are our takeaways? Some of us really need to understand this, even with God. So here we go. You can be grateful and disappointed. Have you ever been in a space and you're trying to talk to somebody about an area, whether you're single and you've wanted a spouse, whether you want to have a child, whether your marriage has ended in divorce, maybe you've lost someone, and that's the absolute worst when people give you that narrative when you've lost someone and they try to remind you to be grateful for the one you do. Y'all, please don't do that. I'm going to just go on the soapbox real again, particularly in the holidays with grief and all that stuff. Please don't do that to people. Some of the worst moments that I've had to walk moms through is when they've lost a child or they've had miscarriages, and us with our good intentions, honey, we get, as I love to tell us, we get to saying too much and we start reminding them of the kids they still have. Don't do that to people. Don't go down the be grateful road. Don't do that. That's detrimental. People can be mourning the loss of one person. People can be, hear me clear, people have the right to be mourning the loss of one person while still having another person existing. When somebody has lost their mom, you don't tell them, but you still got your dad. And when somebody lost a dad, you don't get to say you still got. Listen, y'all, that's the soapbox for me. I know it, so let me calm on back down. And let me just stay focused on what I'm saying. Even when it becomes with God, you can be grateful and disappointed at the same time. I'm wrapping up here because I want us to know God can handle it, y'all. And if you want to see something different in 2024, let it start in our relationships, even with God, so that it rolls over into our relationships with ourselves and with other people, right? If we give ourselves space to be both, if we give the space to other people to be both, and we give ourselves space to be both and multiple things with God, y'all, we would do better. God can handle that. I am saying to you, I am grateful, God, for the open doors that you've given me in my career. I'm grateful for the degrees that you've allowed me to accomplish. I'm grateful for the places that you've allowed me to travel. I am grateful for the finances that you've allowed me to gain. I'm grateful for all of that. But I'm disappointed about this particular area. I'm disappointed that I haven't met the love of my life yet. Because these degrees and these traveling, they don't do nothing when it comes to certain situations. God can handle that conversation. And for the longest, when I would attempt to have those conversations, or even when other people would share about how they're married and they have all this, but they want a child, and people would immediately point them back to, well, just be grateful you got that house, girl. Because I know, listen, God can handle both. God can give space for you to articulate your appreciation and your gratitude. And he can also handle the crucial conversations when you say, God, but this right here is not making sense to me. This right here, I don't understand. I am grateful that I can still walk. I am grateful that I can still see. But this diagnosis that I have in my body, I'm disappointed, God. I've asked you to heal me, and I don't know. I don't understand. It's something off with my faith. Like, am I being punished? God can handle those conversations, y'all. He can give us truth. He can open our eyes to see. He can handle us saying, I appreciate you sparing my kids. I appreciate you covering them. But my marriage fell apart, and I don't know how, God. I was working at this thing. Like, he can handle gratitude and disappointment. He can deal with the reality of these crucial conversations and prayers that we need to talk through with him, so that we can go into 2024 with more clarity, with more understanding, with more awareness. God can handle both because he's all things. That's why I'm going to wrap up. How does this translate then into our lives when we really do the wellness work, y'all, of understanding what's well and the spaces that there's areas to growth? We get to drink more deeply of this grace. Y'all know this grace that people are so fearful of? This grace that people don't really want you to talk about a long time, because they take out of context and say the scripture, oh, because with grace and sin abound. Listen, that's their own narrative about grace. That's their own box about what grace does. That's their own projection that with grace, then people just sin more. We can reject that narrative, because where I understand grace to lie is that grace is not so that I can lay down and stay down in sin. I don't receive grace from that angle. That's not the narrative that you get to force and put on me. That's not how you get to define how I utilize grace and see grace. I don't see grace as a get out of jail free card to be and do anything and just say God forgives me. I don't see grace, again, as the avenue to get in sin and stay down. Grace is what I see in the story that we just spent weeks studying. Grace is there so that I can get up. Grace is not there so that I can just sin and stay down. Grace is there so that I can get up, so that I can do exactly what Jesus extended to her. He said, where are your accusers? Who condemns you? Then neither do I. Get up, go, and sin no more. He didn't pretend that she had not sinned, but he also did not make that the final judgment. He allowed her the space to be both. You have sinned, but receive grace to get up and go. Y'all, 2024 can really be our year when we do the work of understanding that we're both. But the grace is there for us to get up and to go. Y'all hit me right there on that love button if you got you a good nugget for today. If you got you a little bit of understanding of why it's critical that we stop playing games with ourselves. That we stop trying to pretend that I'm either naughty or nice, and I may be a measure of both. And in some places I'm going to celebrate, and in other spaces I'm going to get up and I'm going to do better. Yeah. If it's somehow blessed you, if you get it, you get what I'm trying to say, why this is wellness work, why we got to resist that narrative, and we got to own stuff and grow, and we got to celebrate stuff and appreciate that part too. Yeah, it's critical stuff. Y'all leaning on the love button? Somebody's giving me a thumbs up. I'm going to see you right back here in the morning when to talk to me Thursday. I have a critical question I got to answer for somebody. And if you have a question, you may want to inbox it. I'm going to remind us, I won't have time to go through all of this and try to catch your question. So if you got one, send it to me in the inbox offline, right? So that we can get to it quickly and make sure. We'll do our final Talk to Me Thursday tomorrow. Jim was telling me this morning, and I receive it and appreciate. She said, friend, you've been faithful. You keep getting up and you keep showing up. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be guilty but growing and trying to walk in the things that God has called me to do. Yep. So we'll do Talk to Me Thursday tomorrow, and then you'll meet me right back here for prayer. So if you'll please start checking in, because in advance we start calling your names out, because we know in our prayer moments we don't get to say every single name. But if you'll make sure that you're running up top to the video and you're checking in so that we can at a glance see the whole list of names of people who've been here and been viewing, and we can put your names into the atmosphere before our good daddy God. Sharice, still covering you in prayer. I see you here on this morning, covering your family and all people who are doing grief in whatever stage of that grief that you're in, whether you're literally burying people, whether you're remembering people, or just having your first without people. We're covering you in prayer. Yeah. Thank you. I see Facebook user. I see your note. The same. Thank you, Dr. G. We're grateful for you. I'm grateful for you all too. It doesn't show me your name. And I like to acknowledge that for those of you who I don't say your names, it literally says Facebook users. So we'll see you right back here in the morning. All right. Y'all take care. Have an amazing type of day. And as always, I honor the greatness that's on the inside of you.